Hey folks, Knox at IT Inspired here, continuing the talk today on backups. We are going to go over backing up virtual machines that are running in Azure. So that is a hugely important topic to obviously keep good backups for a long time, depending on what your requirements, your RTOs and your RPOs are. So what I've done here is I've created a resource group called Backup Tests, and I've spun up a little Windows Server 2016 core in the western US, as you can see right there where my mouse is hovering around. It is a B2S size, which as you can see means it's got 2 CPUs and 4 gigs of RAM. A VM of that size will run you about $50 a month in the West US. Just to confirm that I've got it accessible right now, we'll just do a little download the RDP and run that. It's going to ask for the password, of course. And just to confirm that everything is up and running and I'm not lying to you, you can see, let's just get logged in. And there it is. We are RDP'd into that instance that is running in the western US. So let me just log off real quick. And we'll start talking about how to back this up. So the way Azure does everything really is it groups your resources into a very cleverly named resource group. So in this case, we've got a resource group called Backup Test, and that contains this VM. And if actually, let's just click on it so you can see. And it contains the storage and a bunch of the network devices that are required to make this VM work. But one thing that it doesn't require is the facilities to make the backups happen. So what do we need to do? What we need to do is we need to create a resource, and this is called a backup. So it shows up as backup and site recovery OMS. I think they call this a backup recovery vault. So we're going to go into backup and site recovery OMS and click create. And let's see. We want to put this in the backup test resource group, which is in the West US. And let's call this Backup Test Vault. How about that? And as you can see, this is creating the Recovery Services Vault. This is available to me. This looks good. Let's click Create. So what is the Recovery Services Vault? This is just the central facility where you can go to manage how your backups of your VMs take place. It's where you can see the storage that's utilized, the recently run tasks, do any troubleshooting or error resolutions that you need to have happen for that backup, as well as creating the policies as to when to run the backups and how long to keep the backups in place. So you can see it kind of lands on this little dashboard right here, and it's very, very tempting to click this backup and just start like creating backups right away. But what you have to do first is you need to create the policies. So you scroll down a little bit here on the left-hand side, and we click on Backup Policies, and as you can see, it's got a SQL Server log backup default, and then the generic default policy. So let's click Add here, and let's slap together a policy real quick. We are going to be backing up an Azure virtual machine, so we'll click that. And let's give this a name. Let's call this Backup Test Paul for policy name. And let's say I want to run this backup every day at 1:30 a.m. And I'm in Central Time, so I know that's -6. So let's go to Central Time. And right away we can see we're going to retain these daily backups for however many days. Let's make the daily backup retained for, I don't know, 10 days. Make something up. And then we're going to retain the weekly backup point. So if we need to go back a week or however many weeks, how many weeks do we need to go back? We can set this up here. So we'll make this, Sunday and put something here. I don't know. We're just going to put 1 week for now because this is just a demo, of course. And then you've got monthly backups going back for 60 months. That's 5 years. And then yearly backups going back for 10 years. So obviously, if you're a little familiar with your RTOs and RPOs, you would want to specify these policies up front because when we enroll the virtual machine into being backed up, we're gonna apply this policy to it. So I'm not even concerned about monthly backups or yearly backups, so I'm just going to uncheck them. We'll just keep daily backups for 10 days, and then we'll also keep a weekly backup of 1 day, or of 1 week. And I'll just hit Create to create that policy. Again, I am just flying through that. By no stretch of the means should you be doing that policy in your production network at all. You need to very carefully create your policy and make sure you've got all the approvals that you need to make that happen. So that policy, as you can see up here in the little notifications, it was successfully created. So I'm going to back out of this little dialog box here. Oop, didn't need to go that far. Let's go back into my recovery services vault. And now we are ready to configure some backups, right? We want to back up my Windows Server 2016 VM that I've got there. So I'm going to click Add a Backup. And what is your workload running? So it is running in Azure. Just to show you real quick, if you had on-premises, what's really cool is, let's say you had a Hyper-V or a vSphere environment, you could select this, and you could actually choose to back up those virtual machines to an Azure data center. So if your local VM, something happens to that hardware, you could actually spin them up in Azure by using this solution. Super cool. But we're you know, just to really get through this quickly, I was just going to show you how to back up an Azure virtual machine, and it's pretty straightforward, right? You're just going to say we're running in Azure and we're backing up a virtual machine. Let's click Backup. Now, which policy? We know we just created backup test pol, and we can show you what it's going to do. Let's hit OK. And what virtual machines do you want to back up? So this is showing me the virtual machines that were in that resource group. I'm going to choose WS 2016 and click OK. And enable backup. Now that's almost all there is to it. It's not entirely done yet. It's actually going through and verifying that this backup is going to succeed, and it's adding the Azure backup agent to the virtual machine. It would work the exact same way for Linux. It does install an agent to be run there, and it goes through a verification test to verify that it will be able to back that virtual machine up. So this part does take a little bit of time, so I'm going to pause this video and come back to it when it's done. Okay, as you can see, the deployment of that backup for backup test, that was successful. Let's go back out of this and check it out. Now, under backup items, you can see it has one. It has one backup item here, and that's that virtual machine that we added. So let's click on it. Let's click straight there in that box. And it'll show you we've got one Azure virtual machine ready to go. Let's click on that. And now this is important. It is awaiting the initial backup. You do have to take a full backup in order to kick off the schedule. So let's click on it, and it'll take you into WS 2016, and all we have to do to kick it off is click Backup Now. And it's going to ask you, how long do you want to retain this full backup to? It's going to put it 30 days out. Cool, whatever. Let's run with that full backup and hit OK. And that triggers the backup, and that's it. That's all there is to backing up virtual machines in Azure. You create the recovery services vault in your resource group. You create the policy. You apply that policy to a backup item, and then you kick off the initial backup for your virtual machine. That is all there is to it. I hope you guys enjoyed learning how to back up these Azure virtual machines. Get out there and try it out.